Hello everyone, welcome to switispeaks official YouTube channel. My name is Sweetie Pinjani. This is UVM basic series where we are learning basic UVM concepts from scratch. Today's topic is going to be UVM agent. In order to understand this topic, you need to understand the lectures which we had uploaded before this agent because this is just a continuation. That's why, in case you did not go through, please go through those lectures and then come to agent. Now, let's move to understanding what is UVM agent. UVM agent is a component in UVM. What it does, it will encapsulate some of the components in a single entity. Which are the components that are encapsulated in the agent? It has sequencer, driver, and monitor. This agent will instantiate and connect all of these components together via TLM interfaces. You can also have certain configurability knobs like the type of agent can be either active or passive. You can configure this. We are going to see what is active and passive agent. For now, remember it is a configuration which you can do in your agent. And then again, you can turn on or off certain features like functional coverage. These are some examples of configurability knobs. There can be more. Just for example, I gave these two. Then I told you agent is of two types. It can be active or passive agent. What is the difference? In active agent, you will have all three components. Which are these three components? Sequencer, driver, and monitor. And you will drive your DUT via driver. In passive agent, you will only have monitor. You will not drive the DUT in case of your passive agent. The passive agent is used for checking and coverage only because you are not driving the DUT. So, what other things you can do? You can do checking, you can do the coverage thing. All these things are possible in case of the passive agent. How will you configure the agent to be active or passive? You can do it using the UVM config DB. You have set. Inside this set, you can give the path of your agent and there is active. This is active. If you configure to UVM passive, your agent is passive. If you configure it to UVM active, your agent is active. Now you have configured the agent. How will you get this configuration? How will you know what you configured? To check the agent type, you can use the function get is active. This is how we can use get is active. You can call, and if the agent is active, you will build your driver and sequencer. And if it is not active, only build the monitor. Understand diagrammatically what the agent is. I told you that agent can be of two types. It can be active or it can be passive. In case of active, you will have all three components which are sequencer, driver and monitor. We are seeing an example wherein your agent is configured as UVM active. Here you have your sequencer. The sequencer will have sequences. What is sequencer? What is sequences? Everything we have covered in the tutorials in the same series UVM Basics uploaded on Sweetie Speaks official YouTube channel by Sweetie Pinjani. Please go through, you will understand what are sequencer, what is sequence. So your sequencer is going to have your sequences and it is going to have an export. This export is going to be connected with the port of your driver. And between this port and export, your sequence items will flow. Then this driver is going to be connected to your virtual interface. Virtual interface is going to be connected to the physical interface, which then connects to your design under test. The virtual interface is also connected to your monitor. This monitor has an analysis port And this analysis port can be connected to your analysis components. What can be your analysis component? You can have coverage collectors which collect your coverage. You can have certain protocol checkers. You can have scoreboard. All these are analysis components which can be connected to your monitor. This is the diagrammatic representation of the agent. If you understood this diagram properly, you will understand a lot about agent. Please remember this diagram. Next, let us understand the UVM agent class hierarchy. Whenever you want to create any user defined agent class, it has to be extended from your UVM agent. Your UVM agent will have a function is active which will tell whether your agent is active or passive. If it is active, it will say UVM active. If it is passive, it will say UVM passive. Then you have the monitor analysis port, which is UVM analysis port, and it is parameterized by transaction type. This UVM agent is extended from UVM component because your agent is a component. UVM component is in turn extended from report object, and UVM report object is extended from UVM object, which is extended from void. This is how your class hierarchy is for UVM agent. Now, how will you create the UVM agent? Let us understand step by step process. I'll explain you each step properly. Pay attention. First, you need to create a user defined agent class by extending your UVM agent. UVM agent is an inbuilt class provided by your UVM. You will register your UVM agent class, your user defined UVM agent class with the UVM factory, and you will call the constructor new. The second step is you need to instantiate the components inside your agent. If it is an active agent, you will have driver, monitor, sequencer. If it is a passive agent, you will only have monitor. Then you need to build the components depending on the agent type. If again it is an active agent, you will have sequencer, driver, monitor. If it is passive agent, you will have only monitor. Depending on the agent type, you will build the components in the build phase. Then finally, you will have the connect phase to connect your components. Now let us understand the code for each and every step. The first step was to create a user defined agent class. In this example, my agent, user defined agent is Sweetie agent, and I need to derive it from UVM agent. Say this is class Sweetie agent, which is extending from UVM agent. And I will register it with factory. I'll call UVM component utils because agent is a component. That is why I'm calling component utils, and I'm passing Sweetie agent. Then I will call the constructor new. Since your agent is a component, the constructor new takes two arguments. One is the name, which is Sweetie agent, and then your parent. Then you will call the new method of your UVM agent class by calling super.new, and you will pass two arguments, name and parent. Because your agent is a component, that's why we need to pass these two arguments. That's your constructor new. Next thing, this is how you will create a user defined agent class. Simple. Next, you need to instantiate the agent components. Which are the agent components? Three components: sequencer, driver, and monitor. Let us see. Here we will create the handle for all three components: sequencer, driver, and monitor. First, I am creating the handle for the sequencer, and the sequencer is parameterized by Sweetie data. This is the object, transaction object. This is your sequencer handle. Then you have the driver handle and you have the monitor handle. Then if you want to do some configuration for your agent, you also need a configuration object. This is my configuration object. Agent config is the name of my configuration object. Third step is to build the components. The components will be built depending on your agent type. If it is an active agent, you will build all three components: sequencer, driver, and monitor. If it is a passive agent, you will only build monitor. This build happens in the build phase. Again, depending on the agent type. That's why I'm calling get is active, which will tell whether my agent is active or passive. If the agent is active, then I'm creating my sequencer, and the sequencer is parameterized by Sweetie data, and I'm creating my driver, and monitor I'm creating for both my passive as well as active agent, because both passive and active agent will have the monitor. And in case you want to do some configuration, you will also create the configuration object. This is optional step. That's the end of your build phase. The fourth step was to connect the components. This will happen in the connect phase. In case of active agent, you need to connect your driver to the sequencer. That's why again I am calling get is active, which will tell whether my agent is active. If it is active, then I am connecting the sequence item port of my driver to sequence item export of my sequencer. That's it. That's the end of the connect phase. Now let's see the complete agent code. Again, I'll explain you complete agent code line by line. Pay attention. First, I have my user defined agent class Sweetie agent, which is extending my UVM agent. I'll register the UVM agent with UVM factory. Since agent is a component, I am using UVM component utils and I am passing Sweetie agent. Then there are three components inside the agent: sequencer, driver, monitor. I need to create the handle for these components. Your sequencer is parameterized by data. This is Sweetie data and this is your sequencer handle. Then Sweetie driver is your driver class and you are creating a handle of your driver class. Sweetie monitor is your monitor class, creating a handle of Sweetie monitor. In case you need to do certain configuration for your agent, you will also need the agent configuration object. Your agent configuration object is Sweetie agent config and you are creating an instance of your configuration object, which is agent config. Then you are calling the constructor new. Since your agent is a component, new will take two arguments. One is name and one is the component. Name is Sweetie agent. And then in the new, you will call the super.new, which will call the new method of your UVM agent. Then you have the build phase. Again, you will call super.build phase. And here you will try to get the configuration object. In case I want to do certain configuration for my agent, I need to get the configuration object. This you will get from the UVM config DB. The type of object you are getting is agent config, and here you are specifying the name of the configuration object which you want to get and to which you want to assign value. This agent config, I want to assign the value to this. If your agent is active, you will create the sequencer. Sequencer is parameterized by Sweetie data. You will create your driver and then you will assign the driver interface the value of your agent configuration virtual interface. And then you will create the monitor for both your active and passive agents. Again, the monitor virtual interface, you are assigning it to configuration object virtual interface. This is the end of your build phase where you have built the components. Next will be your connect phase where you need to connect the components. If your agent is active, you will connect the sequence item port of your driver to the sequence item export of your sequencer. This is the end of the connect phase and this is your agent class. I hope this code was very simple to understand. I explained you each and every line in detail. Try to code this by yourself, understand each and every line and code this by yourself. Then agent will be very clear in your mind. Let us quickly summarize what we learned. We learned that agent is a component in UVM. It can be active or passive, and it can contain sequencer, driver, monitor into a single entity. Agent can be active, which will contain sequencer, driver, and monitor, and it can be passive, which will contain monitor only. How will you create the UVM agent? There are steps. First step is you will create the user defined agent class. In our case, it was Sweetie agent. Second is you will instantiate the agent components. Then you will build the components depending on the type of agent. If it is an active agent, you will build sequencer, driver, monitor. If it is a passive agent, you will only build the monitor. And then the final step is to connect your components. These are the steps to create your UVM agent. I hope this tutorial was helpful and now you are able to understand agent clearly. I try to cover all UVM concepts in as easy language as possible. Please go through this tutorial a couple of times and as I said, whatever code I have shown for agent, understand each and every line and try to code by yourself. These are the important steps in coding the agent. You should understand each and every step which I have explained. I'll come up with the video tutorials on the other lectures in the UVM series. To stay tuned, you can subscribe to Sweetie Speaks official YouTube channel. I, Sweetie Pinjani, will see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.